The sky turned red over the outer rim as the alarm screamed through the human outpost. Commander Ray Thorn rushed through the steel corridors, boots hitting the floor hard. Ships were already taking off, and civilians ran toward the bunkers. No one expected a pirate fleet to attack so deep into human space. But the Black Star Corsairs had come anyway. Ray had seen war before, but this was different. These weren't just raiders stealing fuel or tech. They were organized, fast, and brutal. He barked orders to his crew, telling them to hold the line. Half the outpost defenses were down within minutes. The name of their leader echoed through the chaos: Sareth the Bloodless. Sareth was more than just a pirate. She was a monster in the minds of every fleet officer. She once burned a colony ship full of children just to bait a navy trap. Her face, masked in silver with glowing red eyes, appeared on every wanted poster. No one knew her real face, but her ships marked death and destruction. Ray's station was one of the last standing. His cruiser, the Valor's Edge, launched just as the main command tower exploded behind him. He felt the heat on his back and the blast rocked his ship. "We're not dying today," he said, locking eyes with his pilot. "Chase her down." Now, the chase lasted hours. Ray's ship was faster, more agile, but Sareth's fleet was like a swarm 20 ships to his one. One by one, he outmaneuvered them, using debris and asteroid fields to hide. At last he reached the flagship, a black vessel shaped like a woodker. Dagger, he knew she was inside. He had one shot to end this. He ordered a precision hit at the engines. The blast crippled her ship but didn't destroy it. That was on purpose. He wanted her alive. The pirates tried to resist, but his crew overwhelmed them. When the smoke cleared, Ray stepped aboard the flagship with his squad. The corridors were dark and smelled like burned metal. Then he found her. Sareth stood calm, her armor cracked but her eyes glowing. She didn't raise her weapon. She didn't beg. She just looked at Ray, then slowly removed her helmet. The face underneath shocked everyone. She wasn't a monster. She was young, maybe younger than Ray, and tired. So very tired. Ray raised his gun, but she didn't flinch. She looked at him and spoke softly. "Do it. I've done enough. No more running." But something in Ray froze. He had chased this enemy across the stars, imagined her as a beast, a killer, a machine. And now she looked human. She looked broken. He lowered his weapon. His crew shouted in protest, calling him a fool. She was a war criminal, a pirate lord. But Ray made a decision he never expected. He didn't execute her. He locked her up. He brought her back to human space. Not for punishment. For a second chance. The High Council was furious. But Ray argued she had knowledge of pirate systems no one else had. He offered to supervise her, to reform her. They laughed at him. But they were desperate for a win after so many losses. In the end, they agreed. Sareth was transferred to his custody. She said nothing during the whole journey. Months passed. Ray kept her under guard, but treated her like a person. He gave her a room, books, and quiet. She didn't smile. She barely ate, but she didn't try to escape. She just stared at the stars every night. One evening, Ray sat beside her. "Why did you stop fighting?" he asked. She replied, "Because I saw my reflection in the children I killed." He didn't know what to say. He only nodded. Day by day, she spoke more. About her past. About the betrayals that turned her into a pirate. About the men who used her name while committing horrors she never approved. And slowly she changed. Not overnight. But it was real. Then came the day she warned Ray. A rogue pirate faction, worse than hers, was rising in the dark zones. She said she could help stop them, but she needed ships. She needed freedom. Ray didn't trust her. But his gut told him she wasn't lying. She wasn't the same woman he captured. He took the risk. He gave her command of 3 ships, each crewed by people he trusted. She named the small fleet the Ashen Wings. Her first mission was a success, then the second, then the third. She hunted the ones who once followed her, and she showed no mercy. Ray watched as the galaxy's worst pirate became something else. Not a hero, not a saint, but something strange. A protector. She never asked for thanks. She stayed away from cities and metals. But Ray saw it how she changed the lives of those she saved. How the soldiers under her command began to trust her, even admire her. And when people asked who she served, she never said the council. She always said one name: Ray Thorn. Not because he owned her, but because he gave her what no one else had: a second chance. A reason to stop killing. A reason to build. That was the beginning of something no one saw coming. Not a war, but a strange kind of alliance between a soldier and a pirate. The tween. A human and the galaxy's most wanted woman. But Ray knew one thing: the war wasn't over yet. Something darker was coming. Asterisk. The Ashen Wings became a ghost fleet moving through pirate sectors without warning. Sareth led them with silence and precision. The ship she once commanded now hunted her former allies. Ray watched every report carefully. She didn't kill for fun anymore. She only struck pirate nests that hurt civilians. It was like watching a shadow eat other shadows, but not everyone believed she had changed. Fleet Commander Ulrich sent a warning to Ray. "You're feeding a wild animal," he said. "She'll turn on you the moment it suits her." Ray didn't answer. He remembered the tired look in her eyes when she said she was done running. He didn't see a monster anymore. He saw a prisoner of her own name. One mission changed everything. A human colony called Draxus 7 sent a distress signal. A war band of raiders attacked them. Ray asked Sareth to handle it. She didn't hesitate. She went in with 2 ships, outnumbered 5 to 1. When Ray checked the battle feed, he saw something that surprised him. She didn't just win. She rescued everyone. No blood spilled that wasn't needed. The colonists feared her when she landed. They saw her silver mask and raised weapons. But she spoke to them gently. She handed food to the children and walked among the wounded. She didn't wear her armor, only a dark cloak and quiet steps. One girl reached up and touched her hand. Sareth smiled. It wasn't fake. It was small, but it was real. That footage went viral across the network. The face of death now saving lives. Some called it fake. Some called it a trick. But more and more people started to ask questions. Was the worst pirate in the galaxy really turning over a new leaf? Ray didn't care what others believed. He saw the truth in her eyes every time they talked. Still, not everyone stayed quiet. A rogue fleet known as the Crimson Thorn sent a message. "You betrayed us," it said. "Now we'll burn every place you've touched." Their leader was Commander Vikas, once Sareth's right hand. A brute who loved war more than loot. He blamed her for ending their golden days of chaos. Vikas attacked 2 outer colonies, burned them to the ground, left messages carved into the soil. "This is your fault, Sareth." Ray clenched his fists when he saw the images. He knew what would come next. Sareth would want revenge. But when he met her on the Ashen Wings bridge, she didn't ask for vengeance. She asked for permission to stop him. Ray gave it. But he joined her this time. He didn't trust Vikas, and he didn't want Sareth to walk into a trap. She didn't argue. She welcomed his ship beside hers. For the first time, they fought together, not as captor and prisoner, but as allies. The fleet moved like one body, swift and silent. They reached Vikas's stronghold in the asteroid fields of Creel. Battle was brutal. Vikas had 10 warships, each loaded with stolen tech. But Sareth knew their patterns. She dodged and danced through their lines like she was painting fire with her cannons. Ray held the center while she flanked. Her voice was calm in the comes. "Stay close, let them chase me, then strike." She was still a pirate, but now she was his pirate. They cornered Vikas's flagship. He tried to run. Sareth didn't let him. She beamed aboard with 2 of Ray's men. Ray followed minutes later. The fight inside was short. Vikas shouted curses and called her a traitor. Sareth said nothing. She knocked his blade away and pressed her weapon to his chest. But she didn't kill him. She looked at Ray. "Your call," she said. Ray lowered his own weapon. "We take him in alive." Vikas screamed the whole way back to the cell block. But Ray noticed something strange. Sareth didn't look happy. She looked tired again. "I'm not her anymore," she whispered to herself when no one else was listening. The return to human space was quiet. Vikas would face trial. The Ashen Wings returned to their silent patrols. Ray received a commendation, and so did she, though hers wasn't public. The council still feared her name. Still, small voices in the military started to whisper. "She's not what we thought. Maybe she's the edge we need in this war." One night as they stood in the hangar watching ships land, Ray asked, "Why did you let me take Vikas alive?" Sareth didn't look at him. She looked at the stars. "Because I wanted to prove to myself I could." That answer sat heavy in Ray's heart. It wasn't for him. It was for her. But the war wasn't over. Something bigger stirred in deep space. The old pirate factions were regrouping. Alien mercenaries from forgotten systems were joining forces. And in the shadows, rumors spoke of a weapon lost to time, a doomsday ship. Ray knew they would need more than soldiers. They needed someone who thought like the enemy. That's why he didn't send Sareth away. He kept her close. Trusted her more than most officers. And in return, she never ran. Never betrayed. She stood beside him every mission. She never asked for praise. She only asked one thing, that he believe in her, even when others didn't. He did. Not because he was naive, but because he had seen her do what others thought was impossible. And maybe, just maybe, she could help him do the same. Ray stood inside the war room, staring at the map glowing on the screen. Red signals blinked all across the border systems. These weren't just pirate raids anymore. Whole stations were vanishing without a trace. No distress calls. No wreckage. Just silence. Something was hunting the outer rim, and no one knew who or what it was. The High Council didn't believe the threat was real. They thought it was fear-mongering or ghost stories. But Ray had seen the pattern. He showed the data. To Sareth, her eyes narrowed as she scanned the screen. "This isn't pirates," she said. "This is military precision. Someone is testing your weakness before they strike." Ray felt a cold weight in his chest. He trusted her judgment. She had been a pirate queen, a war tactician, a killer who studied patterns. If she said it was something worse, then it was. She pointed to one signal near the outer cloud. "That's where we go next. If I'm right, they'll be there." Waiting, they took the Ashen Wings and slipped into the void beyond the edge of mapped space. The crew was nervous. Ray could feel it in their eyes. But Sareth moved through the halls like a shadow of calm. She trained them personally. Gave orders without shouting. And somehow they listened. They followed her like she was born for this role. The fleet arrived at an old mining station floating near a dead moon. It should have been empty, but power was still flowing. Lights flickered inside. Ray scanned for life signs. Nothing, no heat, no sound, but the airlocks were still open. "This is a trap," he muttered. Sareth nodded. "Then let's walk into it carefully." They entered with a small team. The station looked abandoned, but fresh scorch marks lined the walls. Crates were stacked neatly, like someone had left in a hurry. On one console, a message was left. Only 3 words. "We are watching." That's when the lights cut off, and the floor began to shake. Gunfire lit the halls. Not from pirates, but from machines. Cold silver androids with red eyes poured from hidden doors. They moved without fear, without pain. Ray fired his rifle, hitting 3 in the chest. They kept coming. Sareth slashed through them with twin blades, fast as lightning. "They're testing us," she shouted. "This is only the beginning." They fought their way back to the shuttle. 2 men were down. One was bleeding badly. Sareth carried him herself. Ray hit the engines and blasted out of the station. As they escaped, the station exploded behind them in a silent bloom of fire. It wasn't an accident. It was planned. Someone wanted to erase the evidence. Back on the flagship, Ray paced the bridge. Those weren't pirates. They were soldiers. Machines built for war. Sareth stood still, watching the stars. Someone built them recently. Someone with resources, tech, and a reason to stay hidden. Her voice was calm, but Ray knew she was thinking deeper than she let on. The next clue came from an unlikely place. A captured smuggler whispered about a secret auction held in a black market system. A new faction had shown up, selling advanced tech, offering weapons that melted hulls like paper. And all of it backed by something called the Obsidian Crown. No one knew what it meant. Ray and Sareth went undercover, posing as arms buyers. The auction was held aboard a massive luxury ship orbiting a shattered world. Everything was sleek, cold, and dangerous. Alien warlords, rogue admirals, even old enemies of Sareth were there. But no one recognized her. She wore a new face now, one shaped by change. The auction started with small weapons. Then it escalated. A new item appeared, a weapon drone with glowing black eyes and self-healing metal. Ray leaned forward. It was one of the machines from the station. Sareth looked at him and whispered, "They're selling their soldiers. That means they're ready to move." This was all just testing. Suddenly, alarms blared. Security bots filled the room. The auction had been a trap. A voice echoed through the ship. "Welcome back, Pirate Queen." It was Vikas's voice, but different, cold, metallic. "You should have died in Creel, but we found a better use for your name." Ray drew his blaster. Sareth gritted her teeth. The bots weren't just here to kill. They wanted to capture her. Someone was rebuilding her old image, using her legacy to scare planets, control criminals, and fund an army. Her sins had become tools for a new enemy. They escaped in chaos, using the stolen shuttle. Ray piloted while Sareth held off the attackers. When they finally reached orbit, she looked back at the burning auction ship. "They're using my past to start a new war," she said. "I won't let them finish what I began." Ray nodded. This wasn't just a new enemy. It was a mirror of everything Sareth once was. Now they had to stop it. Not for the Council. Not for glory. But for every soul that would vanish if they failed. And for Sareth's chance to finally bury her past for good. Asterisk. The name she spoke was one Ray had never heard before. "Malvex," she said. "He trained me when I was still a child soldier. Before I became the Pirate Queen. Before I had my own name." Her voice shook slightly. Ray had seen her fight warlords and face fire without fear. But this name made her voice crack. Malvex wasn't just a warlord. He was something darker. Sareth explained how he built armies from the ruins of fallen systems. He didn't steal from the rich. He turned the broken into weapons. He didn't just kill people, he erased histories. She had escaped him once. Barely. She thought he had died in a mutiny she helped lead. But now he was back. The message he sent wasn't long, just her name. Her old pirate name, spoken like a curse. Sareth the Bloodless. Return to the void you crawled out of, or I will burn what you now protect. It wasn't a challenge. It was a reminder. A hunter calling back his lost hound. Ray ordered every scout and spy ship to search for Malvex. But he was careful, smart. Always one step ahead. Wherever he moved, he left dead systems and silenced beacons. The council offered Sareth protection. She refused. He wants me, she said. So I'll face him, but on my terms. Ray didn't argue. He trusted her now more than many officers. He also knew this fight was personal, not for medals or orders, but for her freedom. Malvex had owned her once, shaped her into a monster. If she didn't stop him, he would do it again, with new children, new armies, new fire. They followed the trail of ruins across 6 sectors. Each place showed the same pattern, no survivors, strange energy readings, ships made of old parts, but powered by unknown cores. Finally, in a system called Rascal's Hollow, they found it. A ship bigger than anything in the galaxy. A fortress in space, dark and silent, but alive. Sareth stood at the bridge window, staring at the massive vessel. That's the Crucible, she said. He built it from the bones of every fleet he's ever destroyed. It's not just a ship, it's a forge. A place to break minds and build killers. Ray's voice was low. We stop it here. The Ashen Wings couldn't fight it alone. Ray sent signals to every nearby fleet. All eyes responded. 10 ships joined him within hours. Sareth gave them a simple plan. You attack the hangars and weapon systems. I'll go inside, alone. Ray stepped forward. No, you won't. We go together. She didn't argue. She just nodded. They suited up and entered the Crucible through a hidden maintenance hatch Sareth remembered from long ago. The halls inside were cold and sharp, made of old metal and whispers. The walls echoed with voices, not real ones, recorded ones. Screams, chants, commands. Ghosts of the past. As they moved deeper, they saw things that made even Ray pause. Chambers filled with armor pieces, training zones with blood on the walls, cells that still held bones. Malvex didn't just kill people, he tested them. Broke them, rebuilt them. Sareth's hands trembled once. Ray placed his hand on her shoulder. You're not that girl anymore. They reached the core chamber. Malvex was waiting. He wore black armor with veins of glowing red. His face was older than Sareth remembered, lined and scarred, but his eyes were still sharp. So, he said, voice like broken metal, my lost weapon returns. And you brought a pet soldier. Ray raised his weapon. Malvex didn't move. You still obey orders, Sareth? He asked. Or did the humans teach you how to cry? Sareth stepped forward. I came to end this, she said. Not to play your games. I'm not your blade anymore. I choose who I fight for. Malvex laughed. Then let's see what you've learned. He struck first, fast and brutal. Ray dodged and fired, but his shots bounced off Malvex's armor. Sareth engaged with her blades, her movements sharp and full of fury. Sparks flew, metal screamed. This wasn't a duel. It was a reckoning. Ray took a hit to the chest and rolled aside. Sareth pressed the attack. Malvex taunted her. You still fight like my pupil, he said. You still carry the rage I gave you. But she didn't yell. She didn't scream. She moved with control, with focus. Her strikes became cleaner. her stance tighter. She was no longer a slave to his training. Last, she drove her blade through the weak spot in his armor. Malvex staggered, blood spilling from his mouth. He reached for her throat. She grabbed his hand, pushed it down, and looked into his eyes. "You don't own me," she said. "You never did." Then she pulled the trigger on her hidden sidearm. One shot to the heart. Malvex collapsed. Ray got to his feet, coughing. "Is it over?" he asked. Sereth didn't answer. She walked to the command console and activated the Crucible's self-destruct. "Now it is," she said. They ran back to the shuttle as alarms screamed and fire spread through the corridors. The Crucible exploded behind them as they returned to the fleet. A bright light in the void. The galaxy's worst forge was gone. Ray sat beside her in the medbay, bandaged but alive. "You ended it," he said. Sereth looked at him and smiled. "No, I just chose who I want to be now." The news spread faster than light itself. The Crucible was destroyed. The Obsidian Crown had lost its master. Malvex was dead. People across the Outer Rim celebrated. Colonies that had lived in fear for years finally looked up at the stars without dread. For the first time in a long while, peace felt possible. Sereth didn't speak at the victory briefing. She stood in the back while Ray gave the council his final report. She didn't need applause. She didn't want medals. She only wanted to disappear quietly. But when Ray finished, he stepped aside and turned to her. "She made this victory possible," he said. "We owe her more than words." The council fell into silence. For years, they had seen her as a ghost of war, a threat hidden in human flesh. But now they saw something else. A survivor. A weapon-turned guardian. A pirate who had chosen to protect instead of destroy. One councilwoman stood and said what no one expected. "Sereth, you are free." Sereth looked up. "I was never locked up," she said softly, "but thank you." That night, she didn't return to the barracks or the bridge. She walked the city streets alone, seeing normal people live their lives, children laughing, vendors calling, music in the air. For once, no one stared, no one ran. No one knew her face. Ray found her sitting on a hill at the edge of the colony. She didn't hear him at first. The wind was light. The stars were bright. "You don't have to leave," he said. She glanced at him. "I might," she replied. "Everything I was. It still lingers. I don't want that shadow over you. Over this." He sat beside her. "You gave everything to stop that shadow. You didn't run from it, you faced it. That matters." She didn't answer right away. Then she asked, "What do you want me to be now? Soldier? Advisor? Ghost?" He smiled a little. "Whatever you choose. I don't own you either." For the next few weeks she stayed. Not as a commander, not as a pirate, just as herself. She trained new recruits. She flew patrols with rookies. She helped repair ships and walked the docks like a quiet guardian. Ray noticed how the crews treated her, not with fear, with respect, with calm. Then one morning she was gone, her room empty. Her ship missing. No goodbye, no note, just silence. Ray wasn't surprised, but he felt it deeply. She had always been half in shadow. Now she'd stepped into it again, maybe to find peace. Maybe to make sure the galaxy stayed safe. Maybe just to be free. Months passed. The Ashen Wings continued their patrols. The council officially disbanded the order to hunt Sereth. Her name no longer appeared on wanted lists. Rumors said she helped refugees on broken planets. Others claimed she stopped 2 pirate uprisings, but no one saw her. No one could find her. Ray received one message, no signature, just 2 lines. "Keep building what's worth protecting. I'll be where I'm needed." He read it alone, smiled quietly, and deleted it. He didn't need proof. He knew she was still out there, watching, guarding, becoming something more than what the galaxy once feared. Years later, in a distant outpost under attack by raiders, a mysterious fleet appeared from the dark. Black ships with silent engines and silver wings. They struck fast, protected the station, then vanished. The only sign they left behind was a symbol painted on the hangar wall. A single ash feather. Children learned her name in whispers. Not as a pirate queen, not as a killer, but as a shadow that saved the broken. A protector with no flag, no army, no name. Just one purpose: redemption. Ray grew older, but every time he looked at the stars, he knew she was still there. He never tried to chase her again. He had already done what mattered. He had believed in her when no one else did. And she had become more than anyone thought possible, not just a reformed pirate. Not just a war survivor. She had become a legend one. Built not on fear, but on choice, the galaxy still held danger. It always would. But in the silence between battles, in the dark corners of forgotten systems, there were still stories. Stories of a woman in black, flying with silver wings, striking like thunder and vanishing like wind. A fleet that answered to no council, only to her. And whenever someone asked who she served, the answer always came the same: she doesn't serve anyone. But once, a man believed in her. And she never forgot. The Ashen Wings returned to Allied space, damaged but alive. Ray gave his full report to the Council, warning them about the Obsidian Crown. As always, they hesitated. They didn't want to act without more proof. Some believed it was all part of Sareth's scheme. Others just wanted to ignore it and hope it passed like all other threats. Ray slammed his hand on the table. "We don't have time," he said. "They're using Sareth's name. They're building weapons that make ours look like toys." But no one listened. The council adjourned without action. Sareth didn't look surprised. "They'll act once it's too late," she told Ray as they walked out. "They always do." Back on his ship, Ray gathered his officers. "We're not waiting," he said. "If the council won't move, we will. We'll track the crown ourselves." His crew didn't argue. They trusted him. They trusted Sareth too. The pirate queen who now trained their soldiers and slept with a blaster under her pillow. She wasn't their prisoner anymore. She was part of them. The lead came from an old informant, another former pirate named Mako. He owed Sareth a life debt. "There's a secret shipyard in the Red Mist Nebula," he whispered. "They're building warships like ghosts. No names, no signals, just black metal and red lights." It sounded like a trap, but they didn't have a choice. They entered the nebula carefully. The gas clouds choked sensors and made everything flicker. Lightning danced between the clouds, and the ship's hull groaned. But then they saw it hidden between drifting rock. A shipyard larger than anything Ray had seen. Hundreds of ships, each marked with the crown's black symbol, floated silently in the dark. Sareth stared at them through the viewport. "There. Not finished yet," she said. "We still have time." "But not much," Ray nodded. "Then we hit them now, before they spread like a virus." But Sareth shook her head. "No, if we strike now they'll scatter. We need something bigger." A message. She had a plan. Risky but bold. She would sneak aboard the main factory ship and plant a virus in their network. Once triggered, it would overload their systems and expose the entire fleet's locations across the galaxy. But someone had to go with her. Ray didn't hesitate. "I'm going with you." They moved like shadows. Slipped through the cracks in patrol routes, crawled through the vent shafts of a half-finished destroyer, and entered the core of the shipyard. The walls were clean, sharp, cold, no signs of life. Just machines and soft humming. Everything looked built for one purpose: war without mercy. Inside the control room, they found the central hub. Sareth worked fast, her fingers dancing across stolen codes and hidden triggers. Ray stood guard, eyes scanning the door. "Why are you really doing this?" he asked quietly. She didn't stop typing. "Because I want to destroy the monster I helped create. I owe that to everyone I hurt." Then the lights changed. Red glows blinked. Doors locked. A voice echoed. "Welcome back, Pirate Queen." It was the same voice from the auction Vikas, but not fully human anymore. "You should have stayed dead. Now you'll watch everything you built burn from the inside out." Walls slid open. Drones swarmed the room. Ray fired first, dropping 3. Sareth grabbed a blaster and fought beside him. The virus had to finish uploading. They couldn't leave yet. One drone shot Ray in the side. He groaned, bleeding but standing. "Keep going," he growled. "Finish it." Sareth didn't panic. She grabbed Ray, dragged him behind cover, and shot the last 2 drones in the chest. Then she reached back for the terminal, one final key press. The virus uploaded. The room lit up. Lights flickered across the whole shipyard. Their locations, access codes, and command chains began broadcasting to allied ships across space. Ray pressed a detonator linked to charges they had planted. "We're done here," he said. Sareth lifted him over her shoulder and ran. Alarms screamed. Doors shut behind them. The blast rocked the ship as they barely escaped into space. One of their shuttles picked them up at the last second. Back. On the ashen wings, Ray lay on a medbed, blood-soaked but breathing. Sareth sat beside him, helmet off, face pale and quiet. "You didn't have to come," she said. "You could have died." Ray looked at her with tired eyes. "I told you before. I trust you." "That hasn't changed." News of the virus spread fast. The Council finally opened their eyes. The Obsidian Crown's fleet was exposed. Allied ships launched a full assault across 5 systems. Victory after victory followed, but everyone knew the war wasn't over. The Crown still had a leader, a mind behind the curtain. A puppet master no one had seen yet. Ray healed slowly. But he noticed something different. His crew smiled more. They respected Sareth openly now. She laughed sometimes. She stopped wearing her old armor. She helped build instead of destroy. And sometimes, late at night, she sat quietly in his quarters, just to watch the stars. But one message changed everything. A coded signal. One Sareth. Recognized immediately. It was ancient, from her past. A secret only her old commanders knew. Her face turned cold. "He's alive," she whispered. Ray sat up. "Who?" Her eyes didn't blink. "The one who taught me how to burn planets. The one I ran from. The real king of the Obsidian Crown."